Hello, and welcome to the CX Fanatics podcast, the show that helps coaches, consultants, and speakers increase revenue, referrals, and retention through exceptional customer experience. Tune in weekly for insights, interviews, and inspiration that will not only catapult your profits, but also your growth. I'm your host, Elisa Connor. Let's get into the show. Hello, and welcome to the show. Thanks so much for joining me today. We are talking all about how to get higher conversions from your speaking engagements. If you are a coach or a consultant, chances are pretty high you are hitting the stages to get the word out there about who you are, what you do, and how you help people to get more leads. Let's face it. So in this episode, we're going to dive into the reasons why lead magnets aren't working or don't work. The reasons that selling from stage don't work typically. And we're also going to dive into some really unique ideas for lead magnets, specifically for coaches and consultants. And then last but not least, we are going to talk about how to get to yes, not only for the opting in of your lead magnet, but also for opting into your services and some of the things that can go awry on that journey because people can get lost. So if you're listening or watching, I just want to give you a heads up that I had some dental work done today. And so my mouth is still sort of numb, but if my voice sounds a little weird, that might be why. Let's dive into so many people speak on stages, and they can be stages. And one of the things that I find with my clients that I work with that are on stages, there's a couple of things that can go wrong. And the big one that you have complete control over is determining what stage you're standing on. And I know a lot of people that are coaches and consultants and even authors and even professional speakers will just take any speech that they can get. And I'm not saying that's wrong if your goal is to practice. If your goal is to sell your coaching and consulting services, you need to be a little bit more strategic about where you're showing up. And so let me give you an example. I have people that have been clients in the past and also a current client who they go get on stages. One of my clients that I'm working with now speaks at a lot of universities and different boards for universities and in the education realm. But none of those people are her clients. And so I'm working with her to identify okay, if your audience that you're speaking in front of at the university is, connected with the people that might do business with you, then yes, definitely keep doing those things. But if you haven't gotten a gig or you haven't gotten a client from those speaking engagements for the last 5, 6, 7 years that you've been doing them, then we probably need to rethink that strategy. Another client, also new to speaking, has a coaching business. She had the same challenge. She had the same challenge, and we had to work through that with her. She was taking any speaking gig that basically would hire her and have her put her on the stage. And what she was finding is that she was spending a lot of time prepping for these speeches, driving, giving the speech, spending time there to socialize afterwards, and never getting any business out of those speaking engagements. And so when you are thinking about standing on a stage, or if you are standing on stages, you know already that that's a lot of time and work that you have to invest prior to the engagement, as well as during the engagement, and then if you're doing it right after the engagement. So before you invest all of that time and energy, and time is money, that's one of the things that we talk about on this podcast, I want you to go in with a plan. And so some of the things that I wanted to talk about initially in this episode are the things that I've seen go horribly wrong. I'm just going to say it the way it is. So other than, choosing the wrong stages, some of the other key things that I see go wrong with speaking in general, especially when it comes to growing your business, is that most often speakers try to sell too soon. More often than not, people do not buy from the audience. And there's reasons for that. The main reason is you haven't earned the right to sell to them. So let me give you an example. Last summer, I attended a conference. The conference was, I don't know, maybe a B minus. If you're doing like an A to F scale, it's probably like a B minus C plus. But the biggest turnoff to not only me, but a lot of the audience there that we would talk about on breaks, and a lot of times I just listen to what people say, was that they would have these random people come up in between speakers and pitch their stuff. And these programs were not inexpensive. And it was just so jarring to not only me, but other people in the audience, that we just have these random people that were friends of the event coordinators that obviously either paid to get onto stage to sell their stuff or whatever. But they would just throw out their programs. And there was no connection into the event. There was no connection to the content that had been presented before or after. And it just felt so bad. Bad for the audience, bad for the person doing it. And I see this so often where people will stand up, they'll give an hour presentation, and then they pitch their coaching services. And their coaching services are not inexpensive. And then they wonder why nobody's signing up. Or they wonder why the room, like everybody's leaving to go to the bathroom. And the honest truth behind that is that you haven't earned the right for their business. They don't know you. They don't trust you. They don't know anything about you. The hour you've spent with them probably was not packed with value. It was talking a lot about yourself and your business. Those are the things I see go very, very wrong with speaking engagements. Now, is it impossible to sell from the stage? Absolutely not. Is it harder to sell big ticket items from the stage? Absolutely. And is it getting harder to sell those big ticket items from the stage? I would say absolutely yes again, because consumers are wiser. They have at their fingertips the capability to research anything they want, just pulling out their phone to see, what your competitors are doing, how you're different. And you don't have most times, or speakers don't take the initiative to address objections that the audience immediately starts creating in their own minds. And so when we're thinking about standing on a stage, if we truly are going to sell, we have a lot of work to do. And most times you're not going to have more than an hour to do that work, which means if you're going to sell a really low ticket item, like have somebody buy your book, you might do pretty well. But if you're trying to get them to buy into a $3,000, $5,000, $7,000, $10,000 coaching package, good luck. The likelihood that that's going to happen is slim to none. And so one of the things that I recommend my clients, and especially my clients, do is that we have to look at the audience as a whole. And so if you looked at the title of this training, it was that why coaches who speak are losing 90% of leads. Well, if we look at an audience of 100, just because it's an even number, and I told you in a previous episode, I'm not a mathlete, but I can do marketing math. On average, a high average, you might get 3 people that want to talk to you at the back of the room. And then of those 3 people, maybe 1 will move forward with a conversation. And this comes just from my experience, client experience, and just in general. You're going to see, if people are really engaged, you might have a couple more conversations than that. But it also depends on the size of the audience. If the audience is bigger, those numbers can fluctuate, is what I'm saying. But if we're using a round number of 100 people, and we're only talking to 3 of those people at the back of the room, what about the other 97 people? That's 97% of the room. If you haven't given them the opportunity to get to know you better or to start building a relationship, then you are losing out on those people automatically. And so few speakers either do this at all or do it well. And so that's really what I wanted to bring to you in this episode, is how can you increase that percentage, even if it's not 97%, even if it was 50%, that's still significantly a higher number. And so let's keep going through the last two reasons that you're not converting those people if you're trying to do this ineffectively. If you're trying to sell from stage and people aren't ready to buy. So the number one reason is that you're selling too soon. We talked about that one. The second one is that you're not relating your speech topic to what it is you actually do. And I see this so often where people are trying to fit into the niche of the conference. And so they come up with a talk that somewhat relates to their experience, but mostly relates to the conference topic or conference focus. And then they can't tie it back to what they do, which is, again, like, why are you getting on stages to promote your business if there's no throughway and no, line tying it to what you actually do? And so it kind of goes back to the original thought process, which is, if you're just applying to speak and it doesn't tie into what you do, then you're wasting not only the time and energy of getting on the stage with a hope and a prayer that those people are going to convert, but you're also wasting all the prep time. And I can tell you from experience, I did the same thing. I have spoken on stages with different groups in my past that were not necessarily the wrong audience, but the wrong audience for me in the perspective that they could not afford what I do. And so I was putting myself into these rooms and everybody wanted everything for free because they didn't have the money to invest in their business. They were not far enough into their business to be generating enough profit to hire somebody to do their marketing. They wanted all of the help that they could get for free, which there's nothing wrong with wanting that for free. It comes back to me giving them what they wanted for free and then expecting them to pay. And so when you're looking at those opportunities, the better way to go about that is to create a lead magnet that is actually relevant to the audience and also ties together what you're talking about. Make sure your talk is leading to what you do, but also how are you engaging them and moving them forward from the stage it's honestly probably 40 minutes that you have to talk to someone. And if it's not moving them forward to the next stage, then you have to question, okay, what needs to shift? What needs to pivot? Is it the stage? Is it the group? Is it the talk? Is it all of those things? And so I want you to start thinking through, why are you doing the things you're doing to promote your business? And how is it leading to the next stage of your sales system? Because if it isn't, then you need to either pivot and change what you're doing, or you need to stop what you're doing. Sometimes one of my favorite sayings is you need to slow down to speed up. I 100% borrowed it from my mentor. So regardless, it's true. Sometimes we just keep going in our business, but we never stop to go, okay, how is this, stepping back and saying, how is this actually leading to me generating more leads? Or generating more sales, or growing the company, or scaling beyond me. And so oftentimes we just keep going with the familiar because it's easier than stopping and going, wait a minute, something isn't working and I have to make a change. So I want to encourage you to slow down, evaluate what you're doing, see if it's getting you to your goals. And that's another thing I find with especially people that have pretty successful businesses with one-on-one referrals and that haven't really plugged in a marketing funnel successfully, is that they've tossed money, usually money and resources, and hired team members to do their marketing, but then they just set it and forget it. And unfortunately, when it comes to marketing, if you aren't measuring, there's no way for you to know whether or not it's working. And so everything you do, if you were working with me, I would say we need to measure it. Regardless if you are, you have 7 people on your team, or you have 3 people on your team, or it's just you and you're hiring your team. So that 100% still applies to speaking engagements because you're investing a lot of time. A lot of times you have to pay for travel. And stages are really one of the best ways for you to get in front of a lot of people at one time. But you got to get in front of the right people, and you have to find a way that connects with them enough that they want to continue to know you. And so when we dive into the last piece of this, you already know it's coming, is that some people do have lead magnets set up, and they have something that is thrown in to their presentation that they've tried to relate. And what they find is that no one's signing up for it. And that almost feels worse because here you've spent the time to set it up. In the last part of this episode, we're going to dive into the things that can go wrong because there's quite a few things that can go wrong with that lead magnet. But the biggest one that I find is that they create this lead magnet that they think is going to be so great for the audience. And then the audience is like, yeah, I don't really care about that. It's not enticing at all. I have no desire to get that. And I don't want any more junk in my email. And that's really how they have classified what you're trying to give them is junk. And there's only one way to fix that. And that's to stop giving people what you think they need and actually finding out what it is they need and giving them that instead. One of the first steps to growing profit in your business is building trust with people that don't know you yet. As we talked about so many times on this podcast, people don't buy from people they don't know. So how do you build trust with them? Well, the easiest way to do that is by getting them on your email list and staying in front of them so they remember who you are. However, growing your email list isn't as easy as it used to be, which is the exact reason I created a free secret podcast for you to create an irresistible lead magnet. Because the days of sign up for my newsletter or get our insights simply don't work anymore. People are on to the shtick. They don't want to be flooded with emails that don't offer any value. So by taking the time to go through the irresistible lead magnet training, you are going to get the step-by-step plan to create a lead magnet that people actually want and that they will exchange their email address to get, so that you're adding to your list, and then you have the opportunity to show up, provide value, and gain their trust. Once you do this, they are much more likely to not only buy, but tell others about you, about the lead magnet, about your business, and about whatever it is they purchase from you. So if you're ready to get started on that irresistible lead magnet training and get access to the 5 specific step plan, as well as the guide to accompany that audio training, you can grab it today at profitgrowthclub.com/secret podcast. Go grab your copy, get started, dive in and do the entire training at one time or split it up over time. The lessons are broken up so that you can go through 10 minutes at a time, or you can binge the entire thing and get it all done. I want to hear from you how your lead magnet turns out and what you created. So once you've gone through the training, send me a message over on Instagram or LinkedIn and let me know how the training went. Again, grab your access to the secret podcast at profitgrowthclub.com/secret podcast and get started on that irresistible lead magnet now so that you can dive head into next year with a new plan of action to grow your email list, grow your profit, and grow your business. So, without further ado, let's dive into some things you can do, because a lot of times we get stuck in paralysis because we don't know what to create. And so then we just don't do it and we keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. And then we wonder, like, why didn't it work? And so I wanted to put together a list of unique lead magnets for specifically coaches who speak that you could utilize, that one will start to help you stand out from your competitors and other speakers, because most often the people that I work with and the people that I'm talking with are not the sole speaker at an event unless they're hosting the event. That might be different. But even then, you're going to share the stage with sponsors and different things. So you have to do your due diligence to stand out to those people. And so this will help you stand out from all the other speakers that are on stage, because sometimes that can be hard to do. And then also, what's really nice about having a great lead magnet is that the latest statistic that I read was within a week of attending a conference or some sort of event, the people in the audience retain less than like 10%, maybe even 5% of what they learned a week later. And so when you have a really good lead magnet and they've downloaded it, the chances that they're going to see it more often, especially if it's good, they're going to keep going back to it, is much, much higher. Versus like everybody gets really excited in the moment when they're at an event, but then it becomes harder for you to stay top of mind with them if you don't do your due diligence and create something that makes them want to stay engaged with you. So without further ado, let's dive into those. Let's see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ideas for you. The first one, this one probably works the best, is quizzes. And everybody thinks that, quizzes are so hard to set up and Don't even go there. The quiz isn't the headache to set up. The harder part of the quiz is the after they take the quiz. And what I mean by that is you can actually plug into ChatGPT, create a quiz for me of 5 questions. This is my topic area. This is what I want the results to be, blah, blah, blah. But you have to take their answer or what their result is, and you have to somehow convert that result into identifying the problem that you solve, that then you can start to move them in a funnel to work with you. This is where all things go wrong. I'm going to be quite honest. People will create quizzes and assessments and all these different things, but it never leads to the person actually wanting to move forward and work with you. And if you have a quiz and you haven't set it up correctly and they just take the quiz, they're going to take it and go, oh, that's nice. And then their results are going to get lost in their inbox because you haven't helped them identify, hey, you have this problem. You've told me you have this problem. If you don't solve this problem, then this is going to happen. But don't worry, because I'm here and I can help you solve that problem. And that's the one thing that ChatGPT can't do, is take the wisdom and the experience that you have as a coach and consultant and create a customized solution to their problem. So now how do you communicate that? How you communicate that to them is probably another 10 episodes we could do, or we could just talk. Regardless, quizzes work really well. A lot of social media apps have found, like, they just have apps that do quizzes, like just random things like, what would your Scottish name be? Or I don't know, I can't remember. There was a ton of them on Facebook when I used to be on there, but people love to take quizzes. It's got to be something in human nature where we just have to know. So they're very enticing, but the back end of the quiz is really where the magic happens. So just keep that in mind. Okay. Another great, this is one of my favorite, great lead magnets is when you offer exclusive benefits or exclusive content or kind of a behind the scenes opportunity for your audience. So for example, if you're speaking about something that you can only deliver so much information and you're like, hey, I can only get through so much in 40 minutes, but I have this behind the scenes kind of secret group. And if you want to join it, like, you just go in here, fill out your name and email, and then I'll send you the link to come and join the virtual group. And this is what we do in there. Like, every week I go in and I answer questions for an hour, and then there's community people in there that you can talk with that are in the same boat as you, or whatever the benefits are that you have with that secret content. One of my behind the scenes things is my secret podcast. The secret podcast is phenomenal. Like, it gives it, number one, it has secret in it. So that's super alluring to people because it's a secret. But also it gives people the opportunity to go through what it would be like to work with me and do it for free. So they can go through the free training and it's on how to create a lead magnet. So anyway, if you are struggling with how to create your lead magnet, you can go grab the free training too. It is there's an ad in the middle of this episode, but you can go find the free training at profitgrowthclub.com/secret podcast. So, but that's a great way to entice people in a like you don't need a PDF or whatever download. It's like, no, you can get access to this behind the scenes content. And if you're talking about, for example, trying to think of a client example. So I have a few clients that are career coaches. So if they went and they were talking about state of the union for careers in 2025, for example, and their behind the scenes content was, hey, I will review 5 resumes every week. You can submit yours. And then if you come, if you turn it in, then I will, feature you in some way or capacity in my private group, and we'll go through your resume and I'll give you 3 tips to fix it or something like that. So there's a million different ways you could do this. It just depends on what your business model is, what you want to offer to your audience, and get them excited about what it would be like to work with you. So think about that. How could you offer behind the scenes content or a glimpse of like if you have an online program? Perfect. Like give them access to the first lesson, the first module. Like that's super behind the scenes, awesome content that you could do. Okay. So that's number 2, behind the scenes content. Number 3 is access to a free webinar. So you don't have 40 minutes in front of them on stage, but what if you could extend that, and the way you weave that into, how could you weave that into your presentation is like, there's more. I can only touch on step 1 of 5, but I have this free training that goes through all 5 steps. You can have access to it anytime. It's pre-recorded. As soon as you sign up, you get access. And that's a great way to move people from the stage over to the next part of your funnel. And that's, second exposure. And then you can have a third exposure. So all along the way, you're building rapport, you're building trust, and you're building confidence with them in who you are, what you do, and how you can help. So free mini courses, webinars, access to your online courses, all of those things are great lead magnets. And as long as you have put in the work to offer value. Now, I've had a lot of people that are like, hey, sign up for my crappy lead magnet, and then they wonder why nobody's signing up for it. Well, because garbage in, garbage out. Let's just, you can't create garbage and think people are going to sign up for it and be excited about it. In fact, it's the fastest way for you to lose trust with them. So think about that when you're creating a lead magnet. Sometimes the fastest, quickest thing is not the best lead magnet, but so those mini courses where you can provide, a quick win for them, and they can get an experience of what it's like to work with you and to see, how you can help. And anytime you can do in real life interaction in those opportunities, so whether that's a live Q&A or something like that, the higher your conversion rate is going to be to move to the next level. I'm going to tell you that right now, because we all lived through COVID. We all know what happened after COVID. Everybody all of a sudden became an online expert and created all these courses. And so there's a lot of course burnout. However, the courses or webinars or trainings that are really being successful are the ones that are either delivered live or to offer some sort of interactive component where people can start to have conversations, build connection, and feel like they have a rapport with you. So think about that as you're creating your lead magnet. This one always does really well too. The 4th is to create a template or checklist that goes along with your content. And so when we're looking at, again, creating a template or checklist, don't have it be a checklist that you think they want. One of the best ways to create a checklist in your business is, for example, in my own business, I have a checklist for creating a lead magnet, and there's a ton of steps to that. And regardless of what software you use, you still have to follow these steps. And so I created the checklist because I didn't want to forget any of the things that needed to be done when I was working on not only my own lead magnets, but lead magnets for clients. And so I created the checklist. And does that mean that somebody could take that checklist and do everything that I could help them with when it comes to lead magnets? No. Would that lead magnet checklist be super helpful for them when they're setting up their sales funnel for their lead magnet? Absolutely. And so that could, that is a very good lead magnet for me because people want the checklist. They want to know all of the steps they need to do from after they create the lead magnet. How do they connect it? How do they get the emails written? How do they make sure the emails send? How do they check the emails? And, all of the different pieces and parts of what it takes to get that going. And so think about what kind of checklist or template you have created in your own business that would apply also to your clients. And how can you offer that? And how do you weave that into what you're talking about? Because if you're on the stage and then you just have this random checklist that doesn't have anything to do with what you're talking about, you're going to lose your audience. And they're going to be wondering like, why would I sign up for that? And then nobody's going to sign up. And then you're going to be sad because the whole point of getting on that stage is to make sure people remember you and you can continue to talk to them. So that was number 5, is templates or checklists. And then the last one I have is that if you have a online community, so like a Facebook group, or you have a community you've created on like Mighty Networks or School or Circle or any of those different community apps, and you give people like a week free trial or whatever it is, like if you have a free group on there that they can join, and then that's where you promote your paid group, whatever it is, but same thing, where people can get exposure to you, the other people you work with, other people in your audience, the things you do, any kind of resources you share in there. So a perfect example of a free community that I was a part of was a guy I followed forever, and he used to do Facebook advertising, and then he transitioned, and now he does. It's all about AI, like how to use AI in your business and how to cut back on the number of hours that you're doing things that AI could do for you and things like that. So we had a free community, and he had it for like over a year, like maybe a year and a half. And then he transitioned that to a paid community. So he still left the free community there, but he doesn't contribute to it as much. He's like focusing on his paid members. So, which you would have to do. If that's your business model, you have to transition to paid members or you're never going to make any money. But that free community is still available, and he could still easily use that as he's out speaking on stages to say, hey, you can join the free community. There's a lot of resources and a lot of people that are still in there that are active in the community. I'm just not managing it anymore. I'm just, it's there and the resources have stayed there and the community is really great about updating it, but I'm not putting my own energy in there. But if you want to sign up for it, because we're talking about, this particular part of AI, and I know that process exists in the community, you can get access. Here's how you do it. And that would be a great lead magnet. So how are you connecting your already created marketing opportunities and connecting them to what you're talking about? Because a lot of people don't make that connection. They've spent all this time and energy and money creating all these avenues for their marketing, but there's no string tying them all together. So those are the 5. I'm going to go through them one more time. Quizzes, always a winner. Behind the scenes content was number 2. Free mini courses or workshops or webinars is another great one. That one, of all of these, that one will convert the highest, especially if they're live. So I'm just giving you a heads up. Like sometimes it's a pain to do a webinar and you think nobody's going to show up, but you will have the highest conversion rate because especially if you do a live webinar, people love to have the opportunity to get their questions answered. Templates and checklists was number 4. And number 5 was accessing a private community. So you have lots of ideas to create a lead magnet and to get it in front of the people that you're speaking so you can get a higher conversion rate rather than those 2 or 3 people at the back of the room. So where, my friends, does everything go wrong? This is the question I get all the time. It's like, what did I do? It all went astray. Nothing worked. So number one, you're not alone. Everybody goes through this, and it's part of, it's just part of learning. Like I was going to say, it's not part of, it's just part of going through the fire, like to figure out why things work, why they don't work. And it's just don't beat yourself up is where I'm going with it, is like, a lot of people get this wrong. I got it wrong. I have clients that have gotten it wrong. There's no reason to beat yourself up. Just be aware and let's fix it. So number one, this is probably the biggest, is like, you got to have your tech in check. And what I mean by that is like, you need to go in and you need to test it, make sure everything's working. I actually just had this happen. Well, not just, this was probably 2 or 3 years ago, but I had gone through all the trouble of setting up a lead magnet. I was speaking at a chamber event. I thought I had checked all the tech and I had created a QR code, and then I came home like after speaking and I checked it again and it was not working. Like, it didn't work at all. And I had so many people that clicked on it and then they couldn't get to my lead magnet. And so it was an utter fail. Like, and it's just so frustrating to have put in all of the effort of creating that and then, making it easy for people to sign up and all that stuff. And then it just didn't redirect to the right URL. So it didn't work. Luckily, like, I had still handed out other things that had a QR code on it. And so I still had people sign up for that. I still had a really high conversion rate. So people must have found it some way, probably through the direct URL. But check your tech. Not only check like how people are signing up, but go through it, have your team go through it, have friends, family, whoever you can to go through the process. But also all of the follow-up that you're doing. Make sure that the emails are clicking off. Make sure that there's not spelling errors, like whatever it might be in your tech package that you're setting up for your events. Just make sure you and a couple other people are testing it, because if your tech is not working, you're going to not only, one, you're going to be kicking yourself because you put in the work to create this before you went to speak. But two, there's nothing more frustrating for people to go through a process. And actually at that same conference, I went and signed up for, there's a lady that spoke about AI and she did the same thing. She had a QR code and we scanned it and we went and signed up for, I don't even know what it was for now. But her tech fail was not the form. Her tech fail was, we never got an email. Or I never got anything from her. So I submitted all my information and there was some missed synapse for the people that signed up, and actually the actual deliverability of whatever it was she promised. I don't even remember. It was some AI guide, but anyway, so make sure that all of the pieces and all of the components of what you're setting up in your funnel are working. And then the other thing to consider that I hadn't considered previously is, if you're setting all of that up, are you also ensuring that you have internet? Because if people don't have internet at the conference, like this conference for specifically, the internet was very spotty. And so if you don't have internet, people can't get to your stuff. So if that's the case, you got to have a backup plan. Like put the QR code on a flyer, get them printed out with the actual URL for where you're sending people, and have a backup plan. That's what I would say on that, because there's a lot of times that these conference rooms and conference centers either don't have internet, they've locked out the internet, especially if it's in a hotel like this one was, or sometimes service is just spotty, like people can't get to it. So anyway, think through all of the possible scenarios that you can think of. And then moving into number 2, why things go wrong, is that you have made it super hard for people to say yes. So either you've created something they don't want or need, or you've made it super confusing about how to get it, or you haven't related it to what you're talking about. And so if you don't make it easy for somebody to say, yeah, I need that right away, or you don't haven't created enough excitement or enticement around it, people just won't sign up for it. And so read the room, know your audience, know that you are the right person to solve their problem, call out that problem, and then present your quick win to them so that they do sign up. So that's how you solve that big problem. So make it really easy for them to say yes. Don't make them have to work hard for it, because if you do, they just won't. People don't. They're busy, even at a conference, they're busy. They're thinking about who they can connect with, who they can talk to, all the other things they're learning, all of that stuff. So make it really easy. And then the third component of this is that you need to make sure that whatever it is you're giving away is also aligning with the next step you want them to take. And so a lot of times I see people do this with their lead magnet, where they will, even on their websites, they'll create a lead magnet and then they have people that will sign up for it. And then immediately after somebody signs up, they start selling to them. Now, there is a fine line between like selling too soon and not selling at all. And it's different for every business. So what I'm saying is that you have to know, engage in all possibility, or in all circumstances, if possible, cater that messaging to where people are on their buying journey. Because if you're not catering to where they are, then they're just going to unsubscribe and leave. And if you push too soon and they're not ready, but if you never present at all, which a lot of times you'll get, you have, it seems like one of two scenarios. You have somebody that's like all in sales after you download their lead magnet, or they're pushing you to like too quickly to the next level. Or you have people that are like, you get 20 emails later and they still haven't got to the point of what they do. And so there's a fine line there, and you have to determine and create a strategy around what that is in your own business and determine how that conversation is going to go. And so a lot of times what people will do is they'll deliver a lead magnet and they're like, go buy my stuff. And people aren't ready. Like, it's still too soon. They might have heard you talk, but it takes on average somebody 8, 9, 10 times of being exposed to you before they're ever ready to even let you in the door a little bit. So when you go in full throttle trying to sell your stuff, that is such a turnoff to people. They just don't want it, especially if they don't see the value in it. And especially if you're pricing for what you're offering for a service is a higher end offer. The higher the offer, the more time it takes to convert people. And there's so many people out there that will talk about 6 figures in 60 days and whatever. It's like, sure, if you have a very warm audience and they already know you, they've been in your funnel for a while, sure, that might be possible. But the reality is that the more money people are going to invest with you, the higher trust level they have to have with you. And so that trust level is it's much easier to reach and to attain with one-on-one referrals and one-on-one connections and things like that, because they are investing in you based on the trust of someone else or because they trust that person. You have to build that in a very different way when you're speaking from a stage, when you have a website, when you're on social media, all of these other marketing tactics. And so one of the things that I see is that people try to market the way they market for one-to-one relationships in their online relationships, and it won't work. They're completely different mechanisms, levers in your business. And so if you take anything away from this episode, it's like, figure out what those levers are and how you're going to execute on each of them, because they're very, very different. So that's it. That's the episode for this week. I want to encourage you, if you're speaking on stages, to really think about the stages that you're getting on and how you're moving people from that presentation that's taking you, a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of resources to create and get to, and how you're moving those people, and not just the 3%, the 3% that meet you at the back of the room, But the other 97%, how are you moving them into a funnel so they can get to know you and build trust with you and ultimately convert? Because that's where the magic happens. That's how businesses grow. That's how businesses scale. And so many people that I work with, they're like, oh yeah, I just do these one-to-ones. And they have the potential in their business to 10x their business very, very quickly. So just to recap the things we went over today, we talked about why selling from stage directly usually doesn't work. We talked about different lead magnets that you can create in your business. And I gave you 5 different examples of that. So go, if you missed it, go back and hit rewind and go listen to that part again. There's some great ideas there. And then last but not least is why you're not getting to yes if you are using a lead magnet or you're speaking without one. So thanks so much for tuning in this week. I appreciate you being here. You guys are doing great. And I always appreciate when you tune in. If this episode offered you some value, I would love for you to leave us a review. Those mean the world to me. Or even share it with a friend or both. So in the meantime, I hope you have a great week. I'll be back with you next week. Take care, and I'll see you soon. One of the first steps to growing profit in your business is building trust with people that don't know you yet. As we talked about so many times on this podcast, people don't buy from people they don't know. So how do you build trust with them? Well, the easiest way to do that is by getting them on your email list and staying in front of them so they remember who you are. However, growing your email list isn't as easy as it used to be, which is the exact reason I created a free secret podcast for you to create an irresistible lead magnet. Because the days of sign up for my newsletter or get our insights simply don't work anymore. People are on to the shtick. They don't want to be flooded with emails that don't offer any value. So by taking the time to go through the irresistible lead magnet training, you are going to get the step-by-step plan to create a lead magnet that people actually want and that they will exchange their email address to get, so that you're adding to your list, and then you have the opportunity to show up, provide value, and gain their trust. Once you do this, they are much more likely to not only buy, but tell others about you, about the lead magnet, about your business, and about whatever it is they purchase from you. So if you're ready to get started on that irresistible lead magnet training and get access to the 5 specific step plan, as well as the guide to accompany that audio training, you can grab it today at profitgrowthclub.com/secret podcast. Go grab your copy, get started, dive in and do the entire training at one time or split it up over time. The lessons are broken up so that you can go through 10 minutes at a time, or you can binge the entire thing and get it all done. I want to hear from you how your lead magnet turns out and what you created. So once you've gone through the training, send me a message over on Instagram or LinkedIn and let me know how the training went. Again, grab your access to the secret podcast at profitgrowthclub.com/secret podcast and get started on that irresistible lead magnet now so that you can dive head into next year with a new plan of action to grow your email list, grow your profit, and grow your business. Did you miss something in the show today? Maybe you didn't have time to take notes or you're listening on the go. Don't worry, I've taken the notes for you. Head on over to profitgrowthclub.com/podcast. You can find the notes and all of the links for this episode and every episode. In the meantime, take care, stay well, and I'll see you soon.